Welcome into another edition of Sports Junkies. I'm Steve Sparky, Fifer from the Wendy's Big Show on Sports Radio 1250 WSSP, along with Greg Giesen of the Racine Journal-Times. Time to talk a little Brewers baseball. The Brewers' 9-game winning streak has ended. They lose 2 straight to the Cardinals and salvage Game 3 of that series against the Cardinals. What did we learn about Brewers baseball through that Cardinals series?
The Cardinals are just better. I mean, you can have your 9-game winning streak. You can have your little dog. You can have all the things involved with the Brewers right now that are making people happy. But at the end of the day, the Cardinals are just a better team. They took 2 out of 3, and Adam Wainwright didn't even pitch.
Right.
Wainwright pitches that first game, and it's quite possible they take 3 of 3. And they're tied for first place.
But Gallardo didn't pitch either.
That's true. But if you're putting them both out on the mound, I'm taking Wainwright over Gallardo.
I'm sure you are. Yeah.
I mean, when I look at it, what you learn is there's a nice, still high hierarchy to this division. The Cardinals are number 1. They are going to be number 1 unless something traumatic happens with injuries.
Jonathan Lucroy said on the Bill Michaels show this week the Brewers are a more talented team on paper than the St. Louis Cardinals. In his opinion, they're a better team. I look at the Brewers and the Cardinals, and the only way I think you can make that comparison, offensively, I'll take the Brewers and the Cardinals. I think they're pretty even. Starting pitching rotation, I still give the advantage to the Cardinals. Now, I think that changes if Willie Peralta pitches to his talent level and is that X factor. If he ends up having a sub-4 ERA, I think the Brewers and Cardinals are even there. I said, then it gets down to the bullpen. I think there's question marks in both bullpens. Rosenthal has not looked all that sharp to this point for the Cardinals as the closer.
He has struggled. There's no doubt. Then you go down, you take it to that next level, you go to defense.
Yep.
Both teams are very solid fundamentally. But you also, the managers, both solid managers. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to go with the team with the experience that knows how to get there.
And that's the Cardinals.
Game in and game out. If they know how to deal with a 162-game schedule, focus on to the playoffs and make it. And whether they are a wild card team that's only a couple games above 500 or they're winning 99 games, they're still going to make a run at the World Series.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. What about Jim Henderson? This has been a big question mark for this Brewers team coming out of spring training. He has 3 scoreless appearances. They decide K-Rod's going to be the closer anyhow. Henderson's only had, I think, 2 decent performances so far this season and has struggled in the rest. The last performance gives up 2 home runs, gives up 3 runs. What to do now with Jim Henderson? Tim Allen, who hosts the Rapinas Baseball postgame show with me after Brewer games, he has suggested, they said, I'm down at AAA. Let him figure it out at AAA and bring him back up when he's fixed. What do you do?
I will use him in the 7th inning. Or I use them as a
jump guy?
Stopgap. A guy who, you're kind of out of the game, get some work in, try and get yourself right, work in the bullpen. I don't necessarily know that he has to go down to the minors, but, he's shown the talent to be able to do it. Thank God they signed K-Rod.
Yes.
Because I think if there's one thing that this team has shown is that they can have a good closer for 1 year, but that doesn't mean they're going to be consistent over the long haul, and few closers are. So you have K-Rod, you have someone in your 9th. Your bullpen has been lights out as it is. So it isn't a huge concern. You can let him keep going at the major league level and use him wherever you can feel comfortable, and he can feel comfortable trying to adjust whatever is wrong.
And the nice surprise of that bullpen has been Tyler Thornburg, who looks like the Tyler Thornburg we knew and loved coming up in the minor league system, really just being dominant at this point in the bullpen. He may be the new 8th inning guy. And instead of maybe Rob Wooten, who they called up from AAA, the closer at AAA Nashville, Thornburg, again, pitched really well in Game 3.
What's it been, 21 straight batters?
Something like that.
I mean, it's getting to a ridiculous level where you keep seeing it add up. He's almost pitched a perfect game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not easy to do that when you face 27 straight, but it's also not easy doing that when you're coming in every so often, and you don't control when you come in, and you have to be ready just like that.
But again, Thornburg is a confidence guy. Mm-hmm. And Thornburg totally was stripped of his confidence by the rigmaroles of the Brewers, screwing with him, calling him up, okay, you're going to be a starter. Now you're going to be a reliever. Well, I've never been a reliever. Well, you'll figure it out. Oh, now we want you to be a starter again. Oh, now we're going to send you back down AAA. Oh, now we're going to call you back up. And he really didn't start to figure this out until after he struggled and was horrible in AAA Nashville last year, didn't have a win, had an ERA of like over 6 or 7. They call him back up to come out of the bullpen, and then they put him into the rotation, and that's when he figured it out. And I'll tell you something, that changeup that he's developed, Greg Giesen, has been a huge game changer for him out there on that mound.
If you could do that, whatever you can do to baffle the hitters to get them out, it's solid. It seems like he's figured it out. And as long as he's confident, as long as he keeps getting guys out, there's no reason not to put him in the setup.
All right, so that's the one issue. The other issue is second base. Scooter Gennett, Ricky Weeks. We talk about this platoon. I said, and I've been saying, Scooter Gennett should be the leadoff hitter. Gomez should be in 6, and screw Ricky Weeks. And the more I watch this, more convinced I am that I am right. Gomez has been very good at the leadoff position. I'm not saying he's not. But this lineup is so much better if Gomez is sitting behind Jonathan Lucroy in that 6 hole with Ramirez on base, who is red hot, and with Lucroy on base possibly in front of Gomez. You give him an opportunity to drive in runs and be more effective than he is in that one position. Scooter Gennett is clearly the better second baseman right now between him and Ricky Weeks. Enough of the platoon.
Yeah, but you have a rather large contract. You have to do something with them, and unless you're going to move them, you're not going to pay someone to sit there and just do nothing. That said, if he continues to hurt the team, you're right. You have to use him. You have to use Scooter. Is Scooter going to be able to handle both sides of the plate? Mm-hmm. That's the big question.
I'm fine with it. He's not going to hit 100. I don't care how much he struggles with the other side of the plate. He's not going to hit 100, Greg. It's just not going to happen. And Ricky Weeks is hitting like 100 right now, playing to apparently his strength.
Here's the other question, though. Ricky Weeks throughout his career, he's been a starter. He hasn't really been a platoon player. Last year, when he was pushed by Scooter at the end of the season, during, he
was hurt.
Well, you're right. When you're talking about the nice money drive that because he showed up at the end of the year, like he typically has. When the pressure's off and you're making your nice little money drive, that's when he showed up. And Scooter had shown he had the potential to do well. He had the potential to replace
Ricky
him.
Weeks was hurt last year. Scooter went off.
Right. And then when Ricky came back, it was like, oh, here's my job. Right. I better show up. And he did. Without a doubt, he did. But the question I have is Ricky the type of player that when he is challenged like this, you put him in there and he's going to start playing because now he's being pushed because beforehand he wasn't.
Well, let somebody push Ricky Weeks to another organization. I've had my fill. I'm done. I am done. All done with Ricky Weeks. I'm done. And I love Ricky Weeks. Personally, he's my favorite player in that Brewers clubhouse to talk with, to deal with. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. But I am done watching this. If this team is going to compete for a division title or compete for a wild card spot, they must get production out of second base. Scooter Gennett is that guy. First base is a mess too right now because neither one of those guys are hitting, Overbay or Mark Reynolds, and that's going to be a decision that's going to have to be made. And there's already reports that the Brewers are looking at Kendry Morales still, and yet there are 3 or 4 teams looking at him. Now, if you go sign him prior to the amateur draft in June, you're giving up your number 1 pick, which is a top 10 pick, I believe. So Doug Melvin is going to punch Mark Antonaccio in the face, I think, before that is allowed to happen, which means now you're going to have to wait till after the June amateur draft to go sign him. But once we get past the June amateur draft, now it's going to be a bidding war for Kendry Morales, and now you're going to have to spend money. But if you don't think Hunter Morris is the answer at AAA Nashville for first base, which I don't think they do, then you can give Morales a 4 or 5 year deal and fix first base. But he is a big injury concern. He doesn't know how to stay healthy.
He doesn't. But here's the thing. The nice thing about this ownership is that they do spend money.
Yes, they do.
If they see a need and they see the ability to really contend and to really move forward and make the playoffs, this is a team that's going to go out and do what it needs to do to win. So when the player draft passes, when the Brewers have their top 10 pick, now all of a sudden it's open season. They're going to go after him because they're not going to sign. Nobody is going to sign Stephen Drew or Kendry Morales before the player draft. It's not going to happen.
I agree.
So now all of a sudden those 2 guys are going to come onto the market. Drew's going to go somewhere where someone is in dire need of a shortstop or at least some pop in the infield. Morales, if I'm the Brewers, I'm sitting there going,
well, you know Pittsburgh's going to be in. Pittsburgh's going to be informed. They still don't have a first baseman. Nope. And you know the Brewers should be. Look, if we get to June and Overbay and Reynolds are both hitting 200, and you've got a guy there that can hit 285 to 290 and hit 25 home runs, That fixes first base.
Yes, but you're missing one other team that doesn't have a first baseman right now due to injury.
Who?
That team out in New York, Yankees.
Oh, sure.
Teixeira's out.
They might be
and even with that, Teixeira, when he comes back, it's not the hitter he used to be.
But I don't know if they're going to give him a long-term deal. And I think Morales will be looking for a long-term deal. I think Pittsburgh could give it to him. And I don't know what Pittsburgh's situation is in the minors at first base. But the Brewers don't have one.
No.
And they just moved Jason Rogers from first base to third base in the minors, getting set up to replace Aramis Ramirez at third base here.
I think initially the Brewers thought, okay, Overbay can at least give us some average. He
Right.
hits about 260, 270, and then if we need some pop, we have Mark Reynolds. We'll be fine. It's not happening, like you said. It's not as bad as last year, but you can't stay on that forever. Last year was so historically terrible that you had Uni Betancourt playing over at first base at times.
Yep.
That's how bad it was. This is better. But it's still
that's not even ideal yet.
Forward.
I don't think we're even at average yet at first base.
No,
and
we're
that's
not even close.
And that's what has to be fixed. That'll do it for another edition of Sports Junkies, talking Brewers baseball. Greg Giesen of the Racine Journal-Times, Steve Sparky Fifer from the Wendy's Big Show on Sports Radio 1250 WSSP. We'll see you next time here at RacineSportsZone.com.